The Nun. So I actually saw this movie last night, but I'm sure you can imagine I really wasn't excited to come down to my dark basement after midnight and start talking about demons. Anyways, it's directed by Corin Hardy and stars Damien Beecher, Jonas Blaquette, Vera Farmiga's younger sister, Tasia Farmiga. The Nun is the fifth installment set in the Conjureverse, at least that's what I like to call it, and could be looked at in two different ways. A prequel to the original Conjuring, or an origin story for the Nun. Going into this one, I had a good idea what I was in store for, and that's lots of jump scares. The Conjureverse has never been shy about knowing what it is. And to me personally, I'm not like many others who see jump scares as cheap. At times, jump scares are needed. But to me, it's the balance between a well-written script with suspense and tension building in conjunction with those jump scares that make a good horror movie. But for the most part, The Nun is just a bunch of looping jump scares. There's no tension or suspense between these jump scares. It's dark. I guess that's supposed to be scary. They started off on the right track though. The movie starts in 1952 with a young nun that takes her own life. The Vatican decides to send a priest haunted by a prior exorcism and a nun initiate yet to finish her final vows to investigate the incident in Romania. Together, the two discover the grounds of the abbey holds a horrifying secret. Risking their lives for the greater good, they confront the malevolent force that shows itself in the form of a demonic nun, also known as Valak, the defiler, the inhumane, the marquis of snakes. Now they have to figure out how they're going to banish this demon before he gets what he wants, their souls. As you can tell by the story behind the Nun, it isn't anything new. It's a by-the-book demon movie filled with horror cliches, which is why I'm going to start this review with the writing, which is pretty mediocre to say the least, and is where the movie fails us the most, because the performances here and the production value are pretty high, which I'll get into in a little bit. But there are so many times watching this film, I thought to myself that just doesn't make any sense. Like when the priest is buried alive and the ground above him is filled and covered with grass. Really? Come on. I mean, I get it. The Nun is a powerful entity, but it would have been just as effective, maybe even more, just to have dirt, and it would have been a whole lot more believable. And the flashbacks of why this site was unholy and how the nun was banished the first time back in medieval times with a particular relic, which contains what I can only describe to you as a special ingredient, which is completely unfathomable and ridiculous, and takes precedence throughout the rest of this movie. The movie also doesn't create any lore or ever explain what the demon wants or expects to achieve by taking their souls. Actually, now while I'm thinking about it, Valak never even speaks. It would have been so cool to hear Valak speak and tell us what his agenda was. It's the small things like that could have made this movie so much better. But that never happens. I walked out of this movie knowing no more about Valak than is when I walked in. Which is sad because the movie looks great. The set pieces and design have a high production value. Except for maybe when they show an aerial shot of the abbey, the CGI here is pretty cartoonish and looked a little more like something you would expect from a TV show. And everybody here gives decent performances. Not that I felt that all these characters were particularly needed. The priest really has nothing to do. He almost just seems to get in the way. And at the end, I understand why Frenchie was there. I understand why he's in the movie. But again, going back to the writing, he also just seems to get in the way of what's really going on. If anything stood out to me in this movie, it was the performance by Farmiga, who you can tell is really trying here. Trying so hard to make those dull, boring, poorly written scenes seem suspenseful, and to a degree, she was successful at times. If they could have just stuck to Farmiga and Valak and given us more lore, I think this movie could have really pulled it off. Because it's not a bad movie all the time, and does have moments that will have you avoiding your basement at midnight. But unfortunately, this movie falls to the writing and the ending that tries to connect itself to the universe but left me more confused and baffled as to who Sister Irene even really was. Was she... It doesn't even matter. The performances here are good, the production value here is great, but the writing fails miserably. I'll give The Nun a C-. It's just an average, everyday demon movie at its best. Anyways, thanks to everyone for stopping by. I hope you liked my review of The Nun. If so, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. I need just 6 more to get my first milestone of 100. So smash that subscribe button. and join the quest.